The NFL draft is 3 days away. We got Mike Storey hopping in. This is our last show before the draft, Storey. We've covered all the bases. Now we're going to wide receivers and running backs, and we're doing our ranks. So this is a pretty sacred show.
Oh, hello, everyone. I hope you're excited for the NFL draft, which is in T-minus 68 hours or something like that. We are cruising in very, very quickly here, so I'm thrilled. It's been too long. It's been too long since we've had real football. Although the UFL just started, so did you see that big kicker?
No, I didn't watch it. I just saw it start. I didn't actually see it because, it's just not – it's not real football, I guess is what I'll say. It's not NFL football, but I guess I could be a degenerate and bet on it, then I would actually watch it. I wonder if there's a fantasy league for that. You think they have fantasy UFL?
If there's a place that would do it, it would be Fantrax, but I don't know.
We should start one. Let's do it.
Do you think Jonathan Mingo is going to end up in the UFL?
Oh, he's got UFL written all over it, man. He'd be a good XFL player.
XFL.
So I want to pick your brain about this, the Dexter Lawrence trade story. I've been talking about it the last couple nights when I was on solo, and it's just a really interesting trade. And I went back, and there's no precedent for the trade. Top 10 picks are never really traded for veterans, for players. It's usually in a trade up situation, and it's definitely not defensive tackles, interior offense or defensive linemen. Never happens. So what's your take on it? Who won the trade? Does it make sense for both sides?
Yeah, I mean, highly implausible trade. You mentioned top 10 picks. It's a pretty rare occurrence, although we did just see Jacksonville trade up not that long ago. I think the biggest thing was I don't think anybody expected that the Giants were going to move on from what's one of the best, like a standout defensive tackle. I don't really know what to make of it. What do you think of the contract money? $28 million for 1 year.
I mean, essentially the same money Hendrickson got, So I guess let me ask you this. Would you rather have – I know Hendrickson's older, but this is essentially a win-now move for the Bengals because they're kind of trading a little bit of their future. Top 10 pick. In this draft, there's going to be a blue-chip defensive player they could have taken and then not signing Hendrickson, who's a couple years older. But for this year in particular, who do you want, Dexter Lawrence or Hendrickson?
I don't – that's a difficult question. Probably Dexter Lawrence, I would say. I think he's – oh, you're saying for this year only? This year only.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd probably go with Trey Hendrickson.
Edge rusher is more important.
It is more important. Yeah, certainly. I think long term, Dexter Lawrence has more appeal, but this one is I don't know, man. This trade's weird. Also, like I was fully expecting that they were going to draft offensive line help, and now I guess that frees up some draft capital to do that. But it also you also gave away like a pretty significant chunk of your draft capital. Are they just going to not protect Joe Burrow again? That's my concern. I'm worried about Joe Burrow. We'll have to see what they do through the draft. At least they are addressing the defense. We know the defense has been a problem. That said, we have certainly enjoyed it from a fantasy perspective. From a real life perspective, it makes sense for both these franchises. It just none of it really was on the radar. I read that they've been talking for 2 or 3 weeks, but nothing kind of leaked out. No beat reports, nothing like that.
But did they really address the defense? Because they just lost Trey Hendrickson. And so, yes, in a vacuum, they addressed it because they didn't have Trey Hendrickson. But last year they had Trey Hendrickson. So it's more of a lateral move than it is a giant upgrade in my mind. Let's spin it to the Giants here. And having 2 top 10 picks with already a pretty stacked defensive line, they could afford to lose him if any team could. Now, they need some interior help now, but they still have the edge rushers. Now they can really address the rest of that defense, or they can draft a blue chip wide receiver. A lot of different options. Maybe they could trade down and get 2 really good players from that 10th pick.
I mean, it's come out that there was rumblings about Lawrence wanting a trade. They had mentioned after the combine, he had mentioned to the organization that he wanted out. I know that there was some beef with some of the teammates there in the locker room. Regardless, the trade's done. So that's that. He's got a new home there in Cincinnati. I get really concerned if you're a Cam Scatabo manager about they've been linked to Jeremiah Love, and now they've got 2 top 10 picks. If they deem that a luxury, and I think he's one of the stupidest GMs in the entire league. I could see him taking taking Jeremiah Love there if he somehow slips.
Yeah, Blake has a good comment here. We'll get back to the Giants in a second. Bengals won the trade, got a proven player that at top of his position instead of relying on a rookie. This kind of brings it back to the fact that, okay, a top 10 pick is valuable, but Cincinnati has shown no ability to choose the right guy. and also develop that guy. So now you kind of, you're getting rid of that whole aspect of having to choose the right guy to draft on defense and then develop it and have him come around. Last year was a total miss with Stewart. So, and they're in a win with Joe Burrow.
That's a good point. At 10 overall, it's kind of no man's land for defensive players, right? There's no premier, there's no perimeter guys that are going to fall to 10, and taking a guy that's scheduled to go in the late teens, that's too early. So that kind of trade back, maybe get some equity. I think Blake's right, though. They absolutely won on getting a proven player who's in his prime versus taking a stab on a guy, like drafting up on a guy or hoping that somebody falls to you.
If Caleb Downs falls to 10, though, they're going to feel like schmucks. You know what I mean? Because that's the guy that's going to help you now and a guy that's going to help you later. But who knows if he does? I think he might. His over-under right now in DraftKings is 9.5, so it's right at that number.
Yeah, but is he really the difference maker that they need right out of the gate? And I'm not so sure. You look at his profile, and there's enough question marks that you wonder like whether this guy can actually be a full-time starter in the league.
I think the Giants might just go defense. Like if they can get both Ohio State guys, that would be lovely, dude. Like if they can get Sonny Styles and then Caleb Downs. I know they're not premier positions, but they are like very high. They're high floor and high upside players. They just happen to not play a high upside position. But Kyle Hamilton changed that defense in Baltimore. Like Caleb Downs could be that kind of player. And, Roquan's been good too. Like it's just, Harbaugh is a different kind of coach, so I understand why they did this move. And also, Dexter just didn't want to be there. I don't know why, like what his issue was, because he's going to a worse like organization in terms of if there is one worse than the Giants, it is the Bengals because they're really cheap. They're not going to pay you. Obviously, you saw only $28 million, and down the road, you're not getting another contract from the Bengals. No way.
Yeah, they are super cheap. Though there was, as I mentioned, there was rumblings that there was some locker room issues and that Lawrence wanted out. You had mentioned they got 2 top 10 picks now. They need a lot of help. I mean, defense certainly, but offense, like Wandale had a career year last year, but he's not a full-time player. They need a guy opposite Neighbors over there, especially if his rehab is taking longer than expected. They need offensive line help. They need cornerback. Like they are not in a position to draft a middle defensive guy. You know what I mean?
Blake says, pretty sure Giants are looking at Tyson or Lemon at 10, whichever's there. Lemon has fallen. We're going to get to all that in a little bit with our wide receiver ranks, but he has fallen in the consensus boards. And then Tyson had his private workout, and almost every team was there to observe it. And he's shooting up, man. Like this is he cleared everyone's medicals, which for me is weird. Just like seeing the guy in the field, I knew it all along, the talent. Like that's why I always had Tyson at number 1. Spoiler alert. So like nothing changed for me. The fact he missed the combine, whatever. Like the on-field stuff is on-field stuff. The production and the eye test, but that I don't like any of these guys at 10. Honestly, like Carnell Tate, none of these guys. Tyson would be the guy for me, but it's also a risky pick because he hasn't stayed healthy in college.
Yeah, I think the injury issues are going to be a concern for some teams, but you go back and look at his injury history, and they're more fluky than they are connected. If it was nothing but lower body injuries or the same shoulder, I would be concerned. But you look at the injuries that he has had, and they're just independent. So he's just had some bad luck. It's not that everybody's injury prone until he's not, right? I am softening on the injury concerns on Tyson, and I think you'll see that from my rankings. I moved up Tyson
ahead of Carnell Tate, hopefully.
No, absolutely not. Well, you got any mind? What's wrong with this thing? Ahead of McKinley.
Yeah, that's pretty consensus now. But with this Dexter Lawrence trade, we now have 6 teams without a first-round pick, and now we have 6 teams with 2 first-round picks. So as much as the draft in terms of fireworks, in terms of high-end players, I mean, there's always going to be quite a bit. There's going to be deep gems, all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't seem like a great draft all around. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening in a lot of make or break situations because 6 teams with 2 first rounders. This could be like what happened with the Lions a couple years ago when they had their draft was amazing. It was Gibbs. It was Jack, the linebacker, and then it was Aiden Hutchinson, right?
Yeah,
all in one year. And I think they also drafted Sam Laporta that year too. It was like they had 4 picks in the top, 70 picks. They hit on all of them. So some of these teams could turn it around in the last of first. And then you have teams like the Chiefs, the Cowboys, The Giants, I had the Giants in there that are a couple players away from making some noise, and the Cowboys are a couple players away from being elite. And then you got your shitters like Jets, Browns, Dolphins that have nothing, but it's nice for them because they need everything. So they can literally go best player available, which I love going into a draft if I was a GM. Like, you just take a guy you know is not going to bust for you, and then you're just building for 2027, 2028.
And I said it 2 months ago, and I'll say it again. Mock drafts are the ultimate waste of time. Like, this 3 days before the draft or 5 days before the draft or whatever it is, we get this blockbuster trade where everybody is predicting what the Bengals are going to do at 10, and it didn't matter. It literally didn't matter. People have been writing mock drafts for 2 months, and guess what? It's all effed up anyway. So, it's stupid.
Yeah. Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 12.0. Like, get the fuck out of town with that.
Yeah, it's just such a waste of time.
It's just clickbait, and it's like, well, and they just change it up just to change it up. I feel like it's literally a waste, and Daniel Jeremiah is kind of a dumb fuck.
You stupid fuck! Go buy some sandals! Go buy some sandals! You want to fight? I'll fight. I haven't fought in 10 years. I'm fighting you. What you got? Let's see. Throw down, bitch. Throw down, bitch.
All right, you ready to get into let's start with running backs here. We have to go through 10 running backs. We each have our top 10 running backs. Then we're going to have our top 15 receivers. That's going to be a pretty deep dive. You know what? With the receivers, how deep it is this year, as much as we said this draft is a little bit devoid of like upside talent, like, top 10 picks. The wide receivers are so deep, man. Like, I don't like the high-end receivers that much, but it was hard for me to cut it off at 15. I wanted to go 20 deep, but that's just a lot, and that's too much work for Blake. Shout out Blake for these graphics, by the way. Appreciate you.
Big Time Blake. I'm going to call him Big Time Blake.
Did you have a hard time as well? Did you have a hard time as well with 15?
Yeah, I had a hard time with the middle guys, realistically. There's a lot of guys that 1 through 4 I was pretty set on, but you could jumble up 5 through 11, 5 through 12 for me. I moved guys up and down when we were doing this. I had my ranks before, but when I really sat down and tried to put this pen to paper on this and get it solidified for the show, I'm like, all right, this is what I got to stick with until after the draft. A lot of question marks about guys that could pop off, and we brought some sleepers to the table during our deep gems, and I left a dozen names out there that are guys that with the right draft spot and the right draft capital could make noise in year one.
Wally's wondering about the Jonathan Grenard potential. I don't know if you heard this. The Eagles are potentially offering it'd be a second or maybe a third. Second might be a little too high for him on draft day. What do you think about that? They need an edge rusher, and obviously Grenard is just not going to get paid by the Vikings.
I mean, would they switch him to edge because he's a linebacker for the Vikings? Like, he's played linebacker.
Yeah, but
I know he lines up. I know he goes in a 3-point stance more often than not. But I don't know. Second round pick for the guy, that seems pretty aggressive.
What if it was a third? Would that be if it was a third? Would that be a good deal for Minnesota?
I think that's a slam dunk for both teams in that case.
Yeah, you draft the replacement. Eagles like their veteran players. Yeah, I think it can make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would wager to bet he had fewer than half a dozen sacks last year. I would wager to bet you can count on one hand.
Yeah, I'd say so. But you know what? It's more about impact with him than it is stats. Okay, sure. Our running backs. We're going to our running backs. Top 10 running back story. We don't have a lot of similarities in this list. There's a couple of guys we love. But I have guys on my list you don't have on your list that are pretty high up on mine, and vice versa. So excited to get into this one. It's going to be a little sloppy. We're going to have some arguments. I can't wait. So here we go.
Poppy's a little sloppy.
Poppy is a little sloppy. So I'm going to read my list, and then we'll go through individually, talk about the discrepancies. I have Jeremiah Love at 1, Emmett Johnson at 2, Nicholas Singleton at 3, Mike Washington Jr. at 4, Jadarian Price at 5, Adam Randall at 6, Seth McGowan at 7, Jonah Coleman at 8, Jamari Taylor at 9, and Miles Montgomery, my boy, at 10. What do you got, Storey?
Yeah, so 1 through 5, I mean, we're all right there except for your Emmett Johnson, which I had to put him top 10, but he's much lower on my list. I will say Jamari Taylor, it was between Jamari Taylor and Terrion Stewart. So, and I don't want to say I flipped a coin, but yeah, those guys I went back and forth on quite a bit. I'm higher on Mike Washington than you are, but we're right in line with the Singleton. Price is right there. At least you have Coleman. You're you're definitely lower on him than I am. I think the big discrepancy, obviously, is Emmett Johnson.
Yeah, and then Le'Veon Moss, I can't wait to talk to you about this guy because he's a guy I brought up way early in the process and you were down on. And I still love him, but he was right. He probably should have been my number 10 over Miles Montgomery, but I want to plant my flag on a guy I absolutely love. It's going to be an uphill battle for this kid. So let's start at the top and let's talk about Jeremiah Love a little bit. I guess do you have any concerns about Jeremiah Love? I'm going to start there because it's this slam dunk prospect, especially in this draft class, this running back class. There's no one else that even comes close, and everyone has Jadarian Prices too. We don't. So like it's a flip of a coin after that if these guys are even going to be starters in the NFL. This guy is, but what are your concerns, if any?
I mean, I struggle to find a weakness. I guess you could say his contact balance is a little less than ideal, and he plays at a pad level I'm not extremely thrilled about, but that can get cleaned up in camp. I'm not really worried about that. I don't know, man. There's not a whole lot to dislike about him. Is he Bijan Robinson? It was a really close comp for me. I ended up going with Jamal Charles as my comp, but he's an upright runner with true home run ability. 4.36 in the 40. Like, what's he listed at? 6'0", 212. So perfect frame. Yeah, 18 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns last year. What's not to like about this guy?
Yeah, it's funny. Jamal Charles was about 190, but I see the comparison. So my comp is a bigger Reggie Bush. And when I say not just bigger, like a tougher Reggie Bush was not made for the NFL game in between the tackles. But it's the bouncing stuff, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But remember when you asked me during the combine, and you're like, Jeremiah Love always does this wasted move with his little high step he does. That's a little concerning. And I'm trying to, like, we're picking nits here, like really small ones, because the dude's a great prospect. And he's a Jahmyr Gibbs level prospect. But the Reggie Bush thing is good because he's a home run hitter. And I think he's built for a giant workload. I don't think he's built for what Bijan Robinson or even Jahmyr Gibbs has shown that he can, because Jahmyr Gibbs has stayed relatively healthy in the NFL. So what do you think his touch ceiling should be? Like, if you had a coach that wasn't Kyle Shanahan, doesn't give a shit about CMC's health, like, is he a 280 touch player? You know, like
I would put 300 realistically. He's
so?
a guy. Yeah. Now he only had 225 last season, so not a huge workload. But when you've got Jadarian Price waiting in the wings, you don't necessarily need to give the guy the ball 275 times. In the NFL, that changes a little bit. Talent difference is much greater. Your backup running backs are a lot different there. So I think you could push for 300 touches for him overall.
Yeah, man. I love him. In this class, it's an obvious pick, and there's offensively too. This entire draft class, like it's automatic. But I just think that if he goes to the wrong spot and he doesn't get used properly, because his biggest strength in my mind, besides the home run hitting stuff, is his ability in the passing game, and not just like the fact he can catch wheel routes and screen passes and run some routes. It's you can line him up all over the field, and you've seen Atlanta start doing that with Bijan. And when they would play Algier, they have him off to the side. And that's where Jeremiah Love can thrive. So if you get a coach that's creative, you have a weapon opposed to just a running back. So that is the upside there. If someone uses them like a traditional running back, you're going to get some giant home run hits and long touchdowns, long runs, but you're not going to utilize him to the strength that he actually has, which is an all-purpose back.
The question is, what does his role become? Like, where does he land? Like, where if he gets drafted to the Giants, are they going to have a rotation? That's going to absolutely crater his year one value. He needs to walk into a really great spot. So you hope that somebody, when we're talking about these other guys, they're all going to go late enough that literally any team will have the opportunity to draft them, right? With Love, there's only so many teams that have the draft capital or will be able to draft or trade up to get the draft capital in order to invest in him. Because there's no question that he's going top 10. So Tennessee, great spot. Washington, great spot. The Giants now at 10, in addition to what's their other pick, not a great spot. I get worried about the landing spot for him just because he's going to be overdrafted in fantasy just based on the draft capital, the talent, et cetera, et cetera.
If he goes to the Titans, are you taking Jeremiah Love or Omarion Hampton this year?
Probably Omarion Hampton. Probably Omarion Hampton in redraft. I want to see
that's the line for me.
Yeah, I think that Love could get there, but Omarion Hampton, we saw brief flash and they were really invested in commodity it all afterwards. But with a full off season of the offensive line, things gelling there, Trey Harris taking the next step, I think that Chargers offense could be very intriguing, including Amari Hampton. Give him the keys to the kingdom. Let him run like he did in college, and you've got yourself a home run hitter.
All right, at number 2, you have Mike Washington Jr. I have him at number 4. He's consensus 3 or 4, so we're right around the same range. You don't seem to have any concerns. I have some concerns, but you think we all know he's a little bit of a limited prospect in terms of his pass catching and some of his hip stuff. He's pretty rigid as a runner, but the size speed stuff can't be denied. So you're overlooking all that just because he's 225 and he's fucking fast as shit, and he will play in the NFL in terms of like his skill set plays in the NFL.
I mean, he's going to bully his way onto the field very quickly. Best size adjusted athleticism in this entire class. Not the best measurables overall, but the athleticism is incredible. He did bounce around a little bit. I mean, he's agile. He's a good pass catcher. They didn't throw as much at Arkansas as I would have liked, but he still had 226 receiving yards last year, which if you look at Jeremiah Love, he had 280 receiving yards last year. So not that, really good pass catcher, compact. He's an efficient back. He wins in space. I like him quite a bit. I think he's like the thing is, I have him drafted here because I don't think any other player in this draft is going to be able to bully their way on the field like Mike Washington will. So for me, it's not a great comp in terms of like the overall output, but I look at him as like a Chris Carson plus, like a better pass catching version of a Chris Carson.
That's my first player comp.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah, and Chris Carson was like a 4.5 guy, so it's like he's a much more athletic Chris Carson. Chris Carson's a harder runner. That dude was a fucking bulldog. And then obviously it's the Raheem Mostert thing, just because everything screams Raheem Mostert. So he's a mix between he's more physical than Mostert. I think he's a better pass catcher than Mostert, but he is more like Chris Carson. So it's right in between those two guys. It's not the best comp in the world, but he has the speed that none of these guys have. Like maybe Mostert had that, but it still wasn't that elite for that size. So it's a dream prospect if you could make it work. There's still a lot of stuff he needs to iron out, but the tools are there. And you saw him crying at the combine. I do attribute that to how hard he's worked. And I think he's worked really hard to get where he is at this point of his career. Something to be said about that, right? He's a guy that's not going to take anything lightly. And, maybe I'm reading too much in between this, but that moved me a little bit. And it's just like, we don't, a lot of times we underestimate how hard these kids are working and what they've sacrificed to get here. So this is a chance for him to have, I think latest he goes is like pick 50, I would say mid-day 2. So you're going to have really good draft capital. And I just hope he goes to a team. If you have him in dynasty, stuff like that, you're looking into him. A team like the Vikings, team like Seattle, not a team that has an established starter, because he could get buried fast, because he's a dude that could make a bonehead mistake or two. And, you saw that with Caleb Johnson, man. Like, it's really easy to get in these coaches' doghouses if there's other guys that could play ahead of you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of riskiness to this profile. But if you look at the combination of traits that I'm looking for a guy that can take a step in the next level and at least get on the field, like I'm confident that Mike Washington will get on the field early and often next year. And I cannot say the same for literally anybody else in this draft class outside of Jeremiah Love.
All right, my number 2, Emmett Johnson. You have him at 8, Storey. Whoa. This is a Helen Hunt level hate you're giving our boy here. So, I mean, I guess you've said it before. You think he's just a regular player. Is that your thing? He's just an average guy?
He's undersized. His combine showed that he's not all that athletic. He spent 5 years at Nebraska and only cracked out in his last year. Guys that kept him off the field his junior and his redshirt year, or his redshirt senior year, were guys that we've almost never heard of. I mean, even if he gets like 3rd round draft capital, I still don't have high hopes for him. The receiving is a plus. Don't get me wrong. I think the receiving is a plus, but he's more of like he lacks the size and the athleticism that you want to see from an every down back. I think the teams are going to pigeonhole him into like a 3rd down role, and the league's kind of moved away from where these scatbacks types used to litter the RB2 to 3 rankings. So for me, there's just no equity that I think could change my opinion. Like he would need to go. I can't even think of a good spot, because if it's to Washington, they've got Bill Krosky there. If you went, Tony Pollard's still in Tennessee. I just don't know that there is a spot where he can get onto the field as an every down player. And as a scat back.
Did you just call him a scat back?
Dude, 5'2" or 5'10", 202. Like, come on.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind. I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme.
Dude, he is the same exact size as Jadarian Price. So a scat back. What the fuck you talking about? 205? Yeah. How is that a scat back?
4'5'6". Like he's two. Yeah,
dude. I don't care. Okay, so call him slow. Don't call him small. He's not small. He carried a very, very nice workload.
I don't believe. First of all, I don't believe he's 5'10". Yeah, it's great. It's a great workload at Nebraska. I know that offensive line did a lot of heavy lifting there. Yeah. I mean, he's not explosive. Yeah, I view him as like a scat back plus. You know who he is? He's Devin Singletary. Not exactly a scat back, but
okay. So my comp to him is a better.
He's Zach Moss. Zach
Moss is huge. Devin Singletary is my first comp, but it's a better Devin Singletary. And then my other comp is Ray Rice. That versatility, dude. That versatility, man.
Dude, Ray Rice has burst. Emmett Johnson has no burst. Emmett Johnson gets tracked down in the open field like he's wearing a weighted vest.
I think you're still keyed in on that elevator video for your film on Ray Rice, because Ray Rice did not have burst. He had good lateral agility and he was a bowling ball. But Emmett Johnson has great vision. He's very slippery. He's got great feet. He's pro ready, man. He's the most pro ready running back in this draft besides Jeremiah Love. That you could that's true. And the upside isn't there. That's why Devin Singletary is one of my comps. But in a class lacking for day one pros, and we're looking at projections for all these guys, this is a guy I don't have to project. Like I said, he could be a handcuff for a bell cow. He could be a handcuff for a scat back. He's both. Love it. Love Emmett Johnson.
I think he's a stash in PPR leagues. Dynasty.
Well, that might be good in this draft class. All right. I've talked about Emmett Johnson so much in this show, and I stuck with my guns, though, Storey. How about that? All right. Wanda Trust time. We both have Nick Singleton at 3. It's the guy I've been warming to. Wand of Trust time. We're higher than consensus on Nick Singleton. We love him. This is probably Mike Washington has the best measurables. I think Nick Singleton has the chance to be, if anyone has a chance to be a better player than Jeremiah Love, and it's a small chance, it's Nick Singleton, right?
It is a small chance for him to be a better player than Jeremiah Love in this year's draft class, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. He doesn't have the overall rushing yards that we would like, but they did have another back on the roster there in Katron Allen, who took a lot of the carries. But 24 receptions, 219 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns in 2024 or 2020. 2024. The 2025 season was yeesh. We don't want to talk about that. 440, like 4.40. So solid size speed combo, breakaway runs, good vision, good consistency. I guess the vision is a little bit of a red flag, but overall, I mean, I don't want to call him an RB1, but he's got the potential to be, like, if he lands in the right spot, an RB2.
He profiles as an RB1. It's just the other stuff doesn't, right? The inconsistency, the sometimes poor vision. I would say sometimes it's okay. I think that when I first do this exercise, I write everyone down. I've told you this. I have no idea where they're going. I have no history in these guys. I don't know how big they are. I thought he was 5'11", 200 with the way he moved. I thought he was a 200-pound back, and like Jeremiah Love size, maybe a little smaller. And when I see he's 220. And like the problem is he doesn't always play up to that size, but the point is he can absolutely fly. His agility is off the charts, and he's 220 pounds. That prospect does not come around every year. And especially in this class that is very, very, very weak and high-end talent, this is the guy. If you're shooting for a guy that could be a 3-down back, that could be your actual workhorse, RB1 in fantasy, really good real-life player, this is Nick Singleton. So my comps are a better Antonio Gibson, which makes a lot of sense. I think Gibson was probably a better receiver than Singleton. And then Tevin Coleman is the other one. That's my low-end comp for him, is Tevin Coleman, more realistic. But Singleton has much better agility than Tevin Coleman. He was more of a straight line guy, a one cut guy. Singleton can be used in any system as well. Inside, outside, zone concepts, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I copped him to David Johnson.
Ooh, you know what? I actually have David Johnson comp to another guy on my list. I don't want to spoil it, but that's pretty high praise. We love this kid, man. Nick Singleton. Yeah. You know what? Consensus, he's like 5 or 6 on most people's boards. And I think that is strictly because of the broken foot and not testing, because he was the guy that was going to destroy the combine. Like, he would have been talked about like Mike Washington, the rise that Mike Washington had. Singleton had much better stuff on tape and much more extensive college career at a bigger program.
Yeah, I mean, SEC versus Big Ten, so it's arguable. But yeah, Penn State was like the premier program. Everything went wrong in 2025, so I don't hold that against him. His 2024 year, that production is what I'm looking at and what I'm kind of basing these things on. So yeah, I might be a little aggressive having Mike Washington over Nick Singleton, but Singleton's got I think he would have run a 4.40. I'm convinced.
Yeah, I think even better. I think like mid 4.35s, which, you know, we're splitting hairs there. All right, Jadarian Price, the guy we both hate. I hate him more than you, Storey. You have at 4. I am at 5. I have not seen many people have him below 3. It's pretty much 2 on everyone's board. And you disagree like I disagree. Why do you disagree?
Why do I disagree? Why do I have him higher than you? Or
why everyone has him at 2 and we don't?
Oh,
you disagree with that? The consensus that he's the number 2 running back, it's not even close, etc.
Well, I also think he's a bit undersized, 5'11", 203, and just the volume. We don't know what this guy is capable of handling. Right, 113 carries, 674 rushing yards, 6.0 yards per carry, excellent. This is all from 2024. 11 rushing touchdowns, great. So he's got a little bit of a nose to the end zone, but he profiles to me as a complimentary running back. You know, he might have a year here and there, but you know who that reminds me of? Sony Michel, where he's going to have a couple of good years, a little bit into his career, and then
you got to be kidding me. That's my comp for him, Sony Michel. I was about to say you're going to laugh when you see this comp, and I don't know if you can see it, just so the people can see. It's all here. I don't know if you can read that. Sony Michel. I believe you. I mean, you said it first. That's wild, bro. That is the ultimate one to trust. We had the same comp for Jadarian Price, and it's one of the biggest busts. The Patriots take him in the first round? Was it the end of the first round?
He did have a 3-touchdown game, so he had that one time. But yeah, like I said, he'll have some games here and there, but overall, he will have. I believe. If you put a gun to my head, I think he'll have a mediocre career.
You know what's wild to me is that we disagree so wildly on some players than other players. Not only do we agree, but we both have a Sony Michel comp, which is so far out there. A lot of people don't even know who Sony Michel is, because he flamed out of the league. He was a Georgia back, right?
Yeah, Georgia's own Sony Michel.
Good college career. I think he got used up in college, though. He was a used and abused whore in college.
Big time.
Never the same player in the NFL. But you can't say that about Jadarian Price because he hasn't been used at all. That dude is fresh. You know what? He's going to be he's going to be a hell of a kick returner in the NFL. I can tell you that much. He's very good at that. Not enough to be drafted that high.
He might get moved up like half a round if somebody sees with the new rules. If somebody gets really excited about that, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, he's a platoon back, which I mean most of these guys are. But you have the added upside of the kick return stuff, which is fine. But I just don't see any way he's a lead back in the NFL. And if he's your lead back, that's an issue. That's what we saw from Tony Pollard last year in Tennessee, right? Later stages, Tony Pollard, like it doesn't do anything. It's literally 18 carries for 65 yards.
Right. It really doesn't move the needle at all.
All right. We were going to move on we'll go to Jonah Coleman next. So you have Jonah Coleman at 5. I have Jonah Coleman at 9. Now, I don't really hate Jonah Coleman. This whole range here is pretty similar. The grades are pretty similar on these players. But Jonah Coleman is a limited player. That's what I'm punishing him for. He is not a good receiver. Not going to see not a 3-down back, and not explosive. So why do you like Jonah Coleman more than me? I think you're right about at consensus. Maybe even a little lower.
Yeah, I would take umbrage with the not a good receiver. He had 354 receiving yards last year. Now this is a Washington team that did throw the ball a lot, so he had only 758 rushing yards, but only on 156 carries. He did have over 1,000 yards rushing in 2025. 15 rushing touchdowns this past year. You know, you want to talk about a bowling ball? He's 5'8", 220. That's a bowling ball right there. Still ran a 4.50 40, so it's not ideal, but it's okay for his size. Physical, contact balance runner, proven productions across 2 different programs. I liken him to a Mike Davis. Power, balance, but limited top speed. So that's why he's moved down my board. I think he's going to be a grinder with some pass catching upside, potentially.
Yeah, the numbers, the tape didn't show the 354. You see that and you think Emmett Johnson level receiver, guy running some routes, but like this is like late stages Leonard Fournette stuff where it's just Tom Brady checking it down, and the hands didn't seem very sure, as in he wasn't that sure of his hands. He didn't run before a lot of times he caught the ball and he had to, make the effort to catch the ball where it's not in stride kind of stuff. That doesn't hurt you in college, right? That hurts you in the pros because you need every step matters. Every millisecond matters. That's my concern. He is huge though. My comps are CJ Anderson and Mark Ingram, a worse version of Mark Ingram. And then the downside comp is AJ Dillon, who's a guy that I actually liked for a long time. He's not as big as AJ Dillon, but I think CJ Anderson is my official comp there because CJ Anderson was, a guy that would score double-digit touchdowns, and this guy has that potential. But we got to separate fantasy from real life because a lot of those touchdowns that CJ Anderson had that Jonah Coleman might have, is that really a talent? I mean, it's nice to fall in the end zone, but like most big backs can score those. It's not Mike Allstott. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he was earning those inches. It was just, a second and goal from the 2, and you just give the ball to your big back and he rumbles in there. So he's fine. I like him more than Katron Allen. I have him one spot ahead of Katron Allen, which a lot of people love Katron Allen, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
I know. I saw that, and I was looking at Draft Buzz, and I couldn't believe that Katron Allen was right there with Nick Singleton.
Because his combine wasn't great, and like Katron Allen's even worse pass catcher than Jonah Coleman, and like that's the concern. Like I know he's not going to have any play after first and second down. Where like I still don't think Jonah Coleman will, but maybe more of a shot. So okay, we don't really love Jonah Coleman. I definitely don't. Let's talk about my guy, my number 6, Adam Randall. You don't have him on your list, Storey. I'm very confused by that.
You're confused by it? Did you not listen to the Guys I Hate episode?
Oh, yeah. I'm just giving you shit. So Adam Randall, 6'3", 232, 99% percentile wingspan. So he's tall and a giant wingspan. 4.5 40, which is 70 percentile at that size. 37-inch vertical. 93% bench press. 84 percentile on the broad jump. Like, the film's good, too. He converted wide receiver. This dude is 6'3", 232. Let me repeat that. He's huge. He's a monster. He actually is A.J. Dillon's size, but way more nimble. He's got some drop issues, which is ironic because he was a converted receiver. And I'm not saying he dropped him when he was playing receiver. He actually had drops as a running back, but they were actually using him down the field. A lot of like wheel routes and streak routes and stuff down the field. What you could do with this guy, if you can just hone in on some of his problems, I will say, is a giant upside player, man. Adam Randall, like you don't get this profile every day. I mean, it's a guy this size is never considered a dual threat running back, and that's exactly what he is.
Yes and no. The athleticism is great, but the production in college doesn't match the athleticism. You would think that a guy of this size at that program would have jaw-dropping numbers, and we just don't see that. He's a projection bet, and that's fine if you think that he's going to take the next step, but I don't think he can take his game to the next level. And the market's getting really aggressive on him. For me, I'm just gonna go with the safe bet, which is that he never actually manifests as a true workhorse running back in the NFL. And if he's relegated to an early down role, then yeah, I mean here's another AJ Dillon right there for you.
He's 21 years old, which is a nice check mark for me. Super young, about to be 22, but super young. My comps to him, Cordero Patterson, and then David Johnson. So you had David Johnson for Nick Singleton. I have David Johnson for Adam Randall. And David Johnson was a big man, almost 230 pounds.
Remember where David Johnson went to college?
I don't know. Where'd he go?
Northern Iowa.
There you go. So, and you can't punish him for the lack of production and like the sustained production through years because he was playing wide receiver just 2 years ago. So it's like he's new to the position. So like this is the type of guy I want to take a shot on in the later rounds. And there's just no one like him in this class. Mike Washington is the only guy. Dude, 6'3", 232, receiver skills.
New to the position, but come on, you're playing running back. You're not playing quarterback. There's not a whole lot to running
I get it.
back. Go hit
Dude,
the
he
hole.
had a good year last year. He had a pretty good
kid.
year. It was Clemson. Clemson was bad last year. It wasn't just him. Don't blame him for Cade Klubnik, who you had in your top 5 list. Not his fault.
I blame Dabble Sweeney for everything related to that program, except for Adam Randall, who's mediocre, if you ask me.
Oh, man. You know what? I'm very upset with you, and I'm going to play this clip just
Jeez,
for
look
you,
at those
just
two.
for you.
They're going at each other like an Italian guy and a black woman.
Hey, you can't park here!
Excuse me?
Having been officially challenged by her natural enemy, the black female prepares for combat by taking off her many rings. Meanwhile, the Italian male looks around to make sure the other Italian males are indeed seeing what he is seeing. Sensing the impending battle, a flock of Jews flies quickly away, as avoiding confrontation is their best chance for survival.
Good clip.
We don't avoid confrontation on this show.
No, we do
pretty
not.
Good. All right, where are we at? We are at number 7, I believe. You're number 6, Le'Veon Moss, a guy that you didn't like when I brought him up early in the before the combine, and I don't have him on my list, and he's like number 11 for me. I do think there's a lot of upside here, but the injury is concerning. The no testing at all. He's a guy that could have like in the opposite of blown up the combine. He could have an Emmett Johnson level combine. We don't know. I don't know how fast he actually is.
I see him as a 4.55 kind of guy. I mean, he's not going to. He would not have blown up the combine. You're right, but and he's a little older. Spent his career at Texas A&M. I'm looking through, and I the reason I was lower on him, I think, is because I got burned pretty badly on him in fantasy this past year. In 2025, you're right. He mentioned he dealt with the injuries. That whole running back room, though, they rotated through backs near the end of that season. It was an absolute disaster. But 6.3 yards per carry in 2024, that's outstanding. 10 rushing touchdowns, 10 receptions for 141 yards. So the receiving is limited. But go back and watch the tape, 2024 tape. Downhill, power-based runner. This guy was an absolutely outstanding pick in college fantasy football last year, even though it didn't pan out. He's built for short yardage, nose to the end zone. He's going to be a little touchdown dependent, but if he can up the receiving game, and people complained about Jonathan Taylor not getting any receptions in college, and look what he's done in the pros. He can do it. Just because they didn't do it doesn't mean he can't. I like his size, his goal line ability, early down ability. If he can get the receiving game there, this guy profiles to me as a Josh Jacobs light.
I have less explosive Josh Jacobs.
No, you don't. Do you really?
Yes, I do. I'll send you a picture after this to prove my. Here's the thing: is he kind of he has some Emmett Johnson vibes to his game because he's a pretty savvy player. It's just the injury. He's been nicked up more than just once, correct, in his career.
He got banged up quite a bit last year. Like he was in, he was out. There was something that kept him away from the team too. So there's some his intangibles. There's a little bit of question marks there. But I'm telling you, go back and watch the 24 tape, and you're going to see a different player.
Yeah, dude, I did watch it, and I love the guy. But here's the thing: is when I watch his tape and he plays bigger than he is, I expected him to be 215 or 220 pounds, and 203 with his play style, and that's part of why he got banged up. Or like you punish Emmett Johnson for being so small. Emmett Johnson's bigger than this kid. You know what I mean? The same size, like
same size. Same weight, but Le'Veon Moss has got a couple inches on him.
That means he's even thinner. You get what I'm saying? Like Emmett Johnson's more of a sturdy back.
Yeah.
So I love him. Again, the fact that I don't have my list, don't like take that as I hate Moss, because as you know, I was talking about Moss way before the combine, and then he just kind of slowly faded down my board, and I think I kind of forgot about him. So maybe that's a whiff on my end, because I did have when my comp is less explosive Josh Jacobs. I guess the difference is Josh Jacobs is all of 225 pounds. That's the thing is, but that's we comped him there for a reason, because that's how he plays. And that can be concerning, and that's the Isaiah Pacheco thing, right? Isaiah Pacheco, undersized guy, plays like he's fucking David Montgomery. It doesn't work. It doesn't last in the NFL.
I mean, I see Moss as an efficiency machine. So take out the outstanding receiving at Devon A-Chain and go back to his sophomore year or rookie year, whatever year that he didn't do it with receptions, but he did it with volume on the ground. That's what I see in Le'Veon Moss.
All right, my number 7, Seth McGowan. You have him at 9. We both love this kid. I think his consensus is like 8, so we're both right around that range.
He's been rising in that case, like 8, like that. I mean, we have to full disclosure. He's old enough that he spent a year in school, then he got arrested for assault, spent some time in jail, and then he played at community college. Then he played at New Mexico State. Then he played at Kentucky. So he's 24. He'll probably be 25 at some point during the season.
That's a concern. But in most cases, I've mentioned this before, when a guy gets arrested, like it's a red flag character concern. I feel like I have no character concerns because this guy works his ass off and actually served jail time, where it's like he had his one chance. I compared it to Joe Mixon, who's kept his nose clean in the NFL after that. He didn't actually get arrested, but he did blast a girl in the face. And it's a casual gloss over that one. But no, yeah, he definitely he might have blasted her in the face the night prior, her friend, and then blasted her with his fist. But I don't have any concerns there. I think that you're going to get a hardworking kid, and my comps to him are bigger Isaiah Pacheco and then Isaac Garendo as a guy that's just a bigger back that's a home run hitter. And there's some concerns, though. The pass catching stuff is rough. He has the tools to be a great pass catcher, but he tends to just get moving too quickly and has concentration drops. His vision's not the best. Again, he tries to hit every hole, and he needs Le'Veon Bell to come in and be like, "Hey, buddy, like smoke a joint with me, chill out at the line of scrimmage, see the hole, and then hit the hole instead of just trying to hit a hole that doesn't exist."
Yeah, that is a concern. Obviously, also, the inactivity, the sample size is small. He had some early career efficiency, and then he had some mid-career efficiency. In 24, he was 5.4 yards per carry. Last year, it dipped to 4.4, but he did have 12 touchdowns last year. He had 277 receiving yards in 2024, so he can catch the ball too. I profile him to a Damian Harris kind of guy, and it's just because I don't know it's a sample size thing. Like if we had seen 4 good years or 3 good years out of Seth McGowan, what would we have seen? Like it's tough for me to take away too much from just 2 years in New Mexico State and Kentucky, but the 2 years that we did see, especially last year, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to be wary of as well.
Okay, we have your number 7, Kalon Black, out of Indiana. He did not make my list. He was not that close. I don't think I hate the guy. I think he's a pretty high floor prospect, super tough runner. What do you like about him?
Yeah, so he followed Cignetti from James Madison over to Indiana. Spent 2 years at Indiana. 5'9", 211. He's older. He's also 24. 4.45 in the 40. 1,000 rushing yards. I like the efficiency. 5.6 yards per carry last year. 10 rushing touchdowns. He had 27 receptions in 2023 last year at James Madison. He also had 254 receiving yards that year and 4 receiving touchdowns. So also a guy that can do the pass catching. Indiana didn't utilize their backs as pass catching backs. He also had a stable of guys that they rotated through. Experience. He's a steady producer. I think he's a pretty low variance profile. You're not going to get a lot of upside from this guy, but I don't think he's going to disappoint that much either. So weaknesses, limited explosiveness, the consistency's nice, the vision's nice. He's kind of a committee running back. So that's why I think he can do what Monangai did last year. So I got a Kyle Monangai comp.
That's exactly what I have, bro. Kyle Monangai. Get the fuck out of here. Holy shit.
These are going to be like wildly different when we do the wide receivers. I know it.
We'll see. 3% on the shuttle drill. That is a big concern. Those feet are just not very nimble, but this dude, 27 bench press reps, like he is a full grown man. And like you said, the pass catching stuff for the type of running back he is very impressive. So I see the appeal. I feel like he's a very safe prospect, and a team like the Bengals, right? Like if they don't get their true Jonah Coleman, they don't want to spend a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a goal line back. This is a guy that could be the goal line back, also be the handcuff for Chase Brown. Got to definitely keep an eye on, and played in some big games too. Let's not take that away from him. So
that's true. Yeah, he definitely played some big games.
These comps are crazy. All right, my number 9, down to the number 9 for me, Jamari Taylor, guy you said just missed on yours.
Just missed. I mean, it was a coin flip between him and Tyrion Stewart.
My comp, I'm going to get mine out here in case you have a tie with me. It's Bucky Irving, but with goal line chops. So Bucky Irving is just not great at the goal line. This guy is great at the goal line, knows for the end zone. Similar profile, man. Not great, straight line speed, but guy's got moves for days, super agile, great feats, just a gamer.
Yeah, I didn't do comps beyond 10, so I don't have one for him. So
because his profile, his measurables, there's it's all like orange, couple reds, undersized, 5'10", 199, but this dude plays like he's 220. Would you agree?
Yeah, he plays bigger, he plays faster. His straight line speed is a little concerning, but he's one of those guys. Get him in the open field and watch him make a one cut gone kind of guy.
He's very similar to Black. I feel like he's just a little bit more. He's got more agility, so he can make you miss more, and he also can run through you. But he's a little more all around for me, and I love the production too. It was there goes Storey. He'll probably be rejoining here, so I'm gonna play a clip while Storey is on a little sabbatical, and then he'll be back.
Well, you can camp out here for a while.
Well, this is pretty sweet. Does this couch fold out to a bed?
Yeah, totally great bed. But that's Jenkins' bed. Your bed's over here.
Dude, that is so fucking weak. How am I supposed to get a chick in that?
No, don't worry, dude. You couldn't get a chick if you had a $100 bill hanging out of your zipper.
Yeah, I could.
No, dude, you're a little bitch.
I am not. I don't even know why I hang out with you guys.
Because you're a piece of shit.
I am not a piece of shit.
Well, yeah, but you're a little bitch. Sure.
Sure are. I'm going to hit you guys with the intro. We'll wait for Storey, and then we'll get back to the rest of the running backs. We have wide receivers coming up right after this. Did your computer die?
Yeah, no, my internet went out, so I'm on my iPad with the cellular.
Oh, all right. We are back, and we were talking about Jamari Taylor, and barely missed Storey's list. I love him. We are going to go to, let's see, his number 10. Storey is on a black screen. There he is. All right, so your number 10, Tyrion Stewart's. What do you got for Tyrion Stewart, Storey? You're black again.
Yeah, like I said earlier,
black.
These guys are very close to me, but 5'9", 222, 24 years old. He spent most of his career at Bowling Green before transferring to Virginia Tech. He did deal with injuries last year, so I want to be cautious about that. But in 24, he had 900 yards rushing. I like the efficiency, 5.4 yards per carry, 6.1 in 2023. 12 receiving yards, so the receiving profile, not there, not the fastest guy, but he's a productive runner, compact, efficient guy. Good balance, good consistency. I do worry about the competition, the level of competition jump. The jump from Virginia Tech to the NFL is a big jump. Kind of rotational running back. I see him. I've got a comp of Jalen Warren for this guy.
I have Zach Moss. I don't know. I just feel like he's just the guy. That's what I saw when I saw his film. I kind of glossed over his film. I didn't see a lot of it. So, what do you think? Is he any upside in the NFL, or is he just going to be a committee back?
No, I think he's going to be more of a committee back. There really is not a lot of upside. The receiving profile is not there. There's a number of warning signs that this type of profile doesn't. And so for a lot of these guys, it's just a matter of like, all right, well, why do you have him at 10? It's just the rest of the guys, there's red flags on every single profile of every running back from here on out. So, yeah, I like him. I also like Jamari Taylor. But yeah, I also like the guy you have at 10.
Ooh, you do. Is it crazy to have him on the list, though? So my number 10, Miles Montgomery. This is a UCF player that has not gotten any buzz and was not invited to the combine. In my mind, blew up his pro day because everything was amazing, super fast, super agile. Love everything about this kid. And I don't know where he's going to get drafted. That's the concern. He might not get drafted at all. So it's going to be an uphill battle for him, but I'm not too worried. I love the profile. You saw RJ Harvey get way overdrafted last year. I don't think he's a better player. I don't think RJ Harvey's a better player than this kid. And yes, RJ Harvey's production was amazing his last year at UCF, but he's just a hard runner. And my comp for him, it's Tony Pollard. And then I also have Pierre Thomas. So a mix between those two players.
Yeah. The big concern there is the decline in efficiency over the years. You know, he was great on limited reps in 2023. And also he's not really a touchdown scorer. He only has 10 touchdowns in his entire career. So there we go. I'm talking about guys that we like. And I do agree. I do like him, but the profile throws up a lot of red flags. I will say he's got a nice receiving profile though, right? Almost 200 yards receiving last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And limited work. Storey, you're on a black screen right now.
What is going on? Let me tell you what. Let me log off. Are we done with running backs?
Yeah.
Let me log off. I'll go reset my router and see if that works. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
All right. Give you a couple minutes.
Okay.
I will talk to the peeps, and I'm going to play a long clip here. There's only like 3 people in here, so I'm going to play a clip and wait for Storey to get back, and we're going to finish up our wide receivers here. We have 15 wide receivers incoming for you guys. I'll take a pee, and then we'll be back here in a little bit.
Say somebody put a gun to your head. Said, do you want your baby to be lighter or darker? What would you choose?
Why is someone holding a gun to my head
It's
and
a
asking me what shade I would prefer my son to be?
I don't know. See,
Why is somebody putting a gun to our head?
He wants to find out what your preference is. So you're walking down the street with Will, and he snatches you into the backseat of the car, and now he's got a gun to your head. You want a lighter or darker baby? What shade? What shade?
Get away from me.
What color is the guy holding the gun?
He's mocha, right down the middle.
Right down the middle.
50-50. You want it lighter or darker?
I would say on the lighter side.
Yeah. We're back. Story's back. Everything good there, buddy?
I think so. I just did the old unplug and plug it back in trick.
That'll work. All right. Let's get to wide receivers now and see how many comps we have that are similar to each other. So it's a big list here. Big list. We'll go through these a little quicker since we've talked about a lot of these guys at depth. You have Carnell Tate as your 1. I have Jordan Tyson as my 1. You have Jordan Tyson at 2. I'll just read through my list. I'll read through both lists real quick. I have Jordan Tyson, Casey Concepcion, Mekhi Lemon, Omar Cooper at 4, Carnell Tate at 5, Skylar Bell at 6, Denzel Boston at 7, Elijah Surratt at 8, Ted Hurst at 9, Malachi Fields, Story's boy at 10, Jeremy Bernard at 11, Chris Bell at 12, Zachariah Branch at 13, Deion Burks 14, and Lewis Bond at 15. Story, Carnell Tate, you love him. You're not fading on your love of Carnell Tate.
No, we talked about it ad nauseum, but I mean, he profiles as a quiet dominator, a guy who's going to win consistently. He's going to get the scheme touches. He's going to scheme. He's going to get schemed open. They're going to manufacture volume for him. He's a guy that the coaches love, that does everything right, in a high efficiency guy. Not the most jaw-dropping numbers, but he played at Ohio State with your boy Max Clare there. Strong success rate versus both man and zone. What more needs to be said about him? I think I don't know, is he the consensus 1 still, or has Jordan Tyson overtaken him since the pro day?
I think he still is because of safety, and there's no real risk in his profile by most people, even though I think there is. I'll give you my comp. So I think the actual comp is Plexico Burress. Ooh. Not quite as tall, but a guy that's just a lengthy boundary receiver. The other comp is Marvin Jones, which I don't think is a terrible comp. I know people are going to be upset if you draft that in the first round, top 10. But the reason I have him at 5, Story, as you know, I had him at 7, then at 6. I slowly moved him up, is that I think there's a slight chance he becomes a Devontae Adams level player. And I am not willing to put a guy down at 7 where, the other guys I've been hating on the pass at receiver were so raw. This guy isn't raw. He's safe. He's got good hands. Or like Devontae Adams coming out had questionable hands, and he still has, early in his career had some questionable hands. But Plexico Burress is my comp for Carnell Tate. I like him. I mean, he's really good. I don't see the upside of him being an all-timer or an all-pro. And I think Jordan Tyson is a guy that if everything works out, Jordan Tyson is going to be one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, it could happen that way. I mean, he is a little undersized, right? 195 pounds is not really what we want. Devonta Smith would look good on him, but I actually comp him to Calvin Ridley, the prospect, and the guy in Atlanta, not the guy that we've seen recently in Tennessee.
Yeah, Ridley's career got, had the mental health issues, had the gambling fiasco. That's really ever since then. And Calvin Ridley was an older prospect. That's what derailed Calvin Ridley, but pretty good career. And that's a good comp, and that's fine if you get that. But top 10 for that's not ideal.
I mean, potentially, seemingly.
So Jordan Tyson, we both have. I have him at 1. You have him at 2. So I have my ceiling is a JSN level player, but he plays more like Keenan Allen. But he has the looseness in the top of his routes and the way he moves of Justin Jefferson. He has I see some parts of all of their games, and those are pretty high. That's a high bar there, those guys. So what are your thoughts on Tyson? And he's moved up your board a little bit.
Yeah, so the 11.7 yards per reception in 2025, not ideal, but he's got just absolutely elite 3.44 yards per route run career versus man coverage. That is unheard of. So that's incredible. Versus zone, not as efficient. I will say in 2025, Carnell Tate had a 3.02 yards per route run, which is also pretty nice, really outstanding. So he's got Jordan Tyson 1 year at Colorado, and then the rest of the time in Arizona State. Even in 2024, only 1,100 yards. So you would like to see another couple of 100 yards there, but high target share. Obviously, he's got strong per target numbers, strong share of team production. You mentioned it. He wins at all 3 levels, consistent separation, solid yak. And I just like Tate a little bit more. I think Tate is a more well-rounded player. And yeah, not Tyson's not really elite versus or with contested catches. And he's not the dominator for the size that I would want to see as well. But it's a really close 1-2 there.
Agreed. Makai Lemon for both of us. Wand of Trust. We have Makai Lemon at 3, which is, about a month ago, that would have been crazy on most people's boards, but I don't really know what it is. Maybe the other guy, it's mostly Tyson rising up, but my comps for him, low end is Khalil Shakir and high end is Julian Edelman. I feel like the St. Brown comp is too easy, and
it's pretty sloppy, pretty lazy to just give the Amon-Ra St. Brown. 5'11", 192, so also a little undersized, but 5'11", that's not terrible. 21 years old, so he's a young prospect, spent 3 years at USC, 1,150 receiving yards, 14.6 yards per reception, 11 receiving touchdowns, and 3.13 yards per route run. So there's a reason that these three guys are all bunched together there. Again, like Tyson, not really great with contested catches. And so and obviously at 5'11", 192, that means that the outside role is going to be a little bit limited. So he's certainly not a slot merchant, but he's going to play inside more so than most of these guys that are at the top of the draft here, except for the next guy.
What's your biggest concern on Lemon? Is it the size and he's got shorter arms? Like, is it all that kind of stuff? That big adjustment in the NFL?
It's the play strength. Can he adjust to the NFL size, speed of these cornerbacks? I have a concern there.
All right, number 4, Omar Cooper. We both have him there, so we're at consensus here, and that's pretty much where he's mocked to go. Probably mid-teens, late teens. And he could be, any team could use this kid because what he does after the catch is absolutely elite. And this is the best tackle breaker and best guy after the catch I saw, besides maybe Casey Concepcion, who I have at number 2, but we're talking about him after this. But the guy's a little bulldog, man, and also really good in the red zone. So my comps for him, Zay Flowers, but not as shifty, and he's got some Debo in his game. So it's a mix between those two guys. This guy you can use all over the field, line him up in the backfield. Versatile is the word.
Yeah, I mean, the yak is drool-worthy. The size, though, Debo is not 199. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, no, not at all.
Debo's bigger man. I got him to comp to Rashee Rice, right? Solid, but unspectacular across most metrics, except for yak there. Average separation, average depth usage. Production profile really suggests more reliability than dominance. So a guy that you can manufacture touches for, bubble screens, wheel routes, get him out in space and let him do his thing, versus a guy that you're going to throw up against the number 1 corner and let him play bully ball. That's why he's down at 4. And I think it's a big jump between the top 3 and number 4. But I still really like strong hands, strong route consistency. He's a chain mover. And I'm excited to see in the right system what he can do.
All right, Casey Concepcion is your 5. He is my number 2, Story. So why do you hate KC so much?
He's got a very limited route tree. That is my biggest concern with him. I don't know that he can play the full 9 routes that you need to be able to play in the NFL in order to succeed. Strengths, yak, versatility, playmaking, obvious, but he profiles more of an offensive chess piece, a guy you're going to move around and try to create mismatches, but he's not a full-time player. He feels like a 70%, maybe 65% snap share, 70% snap share kind of guy. That's why I've got him comped to a Jaden Reed, who had a very similar yards per route run, 2.21, very average.
That's rough. That's a rough one. But he did line up all over the field, so he's been used in a bunch of creative ways. It's just he has some work to do, like you said, in the route tree stuff. My comps for him, my high end comp, Odell Beckham Jr. Same size, not quite the high end speed. Odell ran a 4.43. He didn't test, but I'm guessing he would have been a 4.45 guy. Now the downside, where this can go wrong, is Kadarius Toney, that level of player. But I think that the medium comp would be Doug Baldwin, that type of player, because he had a lot of drops, concentration issues there in college. But I feel like his hands are better than what the drop numbers say, and he could turn into a very reliable target. But this guy, outside of Omar Cooper, who's more of a tackle breaker, this is the best guy in terms of eating up space, making plays with the ball in his hands. The guy was amazing as a freshman. I love Concepcion. One of the highest upside shots, I think maybe the highest, even maybe higher than Tyson. Tyson's definitely more of a pro-ready player. This guy has it all in my book. I know we disagree on that one, but I love him.
Yeah, I think there's too many red flags in his profile for me to say that he's a surefire bet at the next level. But I do agree he's got the upside.
All right, number 6. I have number 6. You have number 8, Skylar Bell. Consensus is like wide receiver 14 or wide receiver 15 Story. So this is our guy. We're planting our flag on Skylar Bell. I love him. Is he one of the most pro-ready receivers in this draft, although he went to a small school?
I mean, he went to a small school for 2 years, but don't forget, he started his career at Wisconsin. Somewhat unspectacularly, but 1,278 receiving yards last year. Had a 17.2 yards per reception in 2024. So you love the efficiency. 13 receiving touchdowns last year. And again, a really, really great 3.13 yards per route run. 4.440. Incremental production growth tied with more opportunity. We saw the efficiency spike. It did dip last year. He looks like a surefire bet to get on the field as a Z wide receiver. You know, I'd like to see him put on 10 pounds. He's a little undersized, but he's going to need volume to be fantasy relevant. But I see a lot of red flags with the guys behind him. That's why he's at 8 for me. I got him to comp to Chris Olave.
Ooh, that's really nice. I have mine's a little lower. Part of it is I have Jordan Addison mixed with Stephon Diggs. That level player, that Jordan Addison is that perfect definition of a Z receiver, and Steph Diggs is a guy that can play all over the field. And I do believe Skylar Bell can play all over the field. Not a true X receiver, but if you need him to in a pinch, he can play that. He can play in the slot. Just a versatile guy that I love his motor. The yak stuff isn't great with him, but he is as sure-handed as they come. I know I saw a lot of people saying he has drop issues and hands questions. I didn't see that at all in film. I saw a guy that just a vacuum cleaner.
He certainly. I'm not sure who was saying he's got drop issues. I don't know how many drops.
Some of the scouting reports I read, that's what I saw. Like I was like, "What are you talking?" They didn't say drop. They said questionable hands. Like I like the way he catches the ball, natural hands catcher. Like that's the least of my concerns with him.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't seen that yet.
All right, we are moving on to your number 6, Chris Bell, who I have as 12. This is a guy I love, but the injury is an issue, and maybe I'm punishing some of these guys because the year one production. Now, there's some reports that he might be ready for camp or week 1. I don't think that's happening. My comp for him, though, this is Rashee Rice.
This is Juju Smith-Schuster for me. So,
okay,
very, very similar size, 6'2", 222. He's a young prospect, even though he's been in college for 4 years. It was all at Louisville, 21 years old. Yeah, you did mention the injury is a little bit of a concern. He also under 1,000 yards this past year, but 17.4 yards per reception in 2024. A pretty good, but if unspectacular, yards per route run at 2.55. Good combine. I mean, he's a downfield-oriented production guy. I see him getting on the field on 2 wide receiver sets on some team based on the size, based on the production we saw over his career at Louisville. Lower separation rates versus man, so you're going to need to get him in the right spots. You know, positioning is going to be important. Got good catch radius. Going to be a little bit big play dependent. Overall, though, I think he can translate for fantasy pretty well. It wouldn't surprise me to see him post up numbers similar to like a T. Higgins.
Yeah, man. What's weird that I give him the Rashee Rice comp. If you remember at SMU, Rashee Rice was strictly used as an X receiver, and then he gets into KC. They're like, you're a slot guy. Bell has only been used as a slot receiver, and I feel like he's a guy that can come in and play X in the NFL. But, dude, you mentioned 17 yards per catch, and that's on pretty short ADOT, so it's all yak stuff and super raw. But with the ball in his hand, I think him and Jeremy Bernard are the 2 guys that, and Omar Cooper, are like just bigger, stronger than everyone else. And I think that it's going to play in the NFL. They just got to find a right spot. Someone that's going to understand how to use this kid. And then obviously the injury, how does he come back? Might not get much as a rookie from him, but you know what? It's a long career for most of these guys.
Long career, and it will be interesting to see. You're right. He played slot for the most part at Louisville, but I see him. He profiles to me as a boundary X guy. I really think he can play outside.
It's funny. It's the exact opposite of Rashee Rice, who only played outside, and he's only played inside because Rashee Rice cannot beat man coverage. This guy can beat man coverage, but he's actually been really good against zone. So I do like him. I should have him higher. It's just I like the other guys. I feel like he's a riskier prospect than the other guys I have ahead of him. So Denzel Boston's a guy you're lower on than I am. I am at 7, mostly because I think he could go in the first round. So the opportunity is going to be there. And safe and steady dude. I have Cortland Sutton as my comp. So just a guy that's going to be out there running X receiver routes, eating up space, taking on double teams. I do like his red zone stuff. So he's a monster in the red zone. That is 1+ for him. Everything else is pretty blah.
That's actually kind of a negative for me. Like his age-adjusted efficiency or age-adjusted production is not ideal when you consider that it's skewed towards touchdowns rather than volume. So also an unspectacular 4.60 40 there. He's going to need high-value targets. Yeah, end zone, deep shots. Like, I worry that he's going to come in. He's going to be this year's Isaac Tesla. Now, obviously, Tesla was a, correct me if I'm wrong, 3rd-round pick for Detroit last year. So he won't go in the 3rd round. I'm just worried that he's going to come in situational packages, and he's just not going to get the volume that we need to see from a fantasy viable wide receiver. Red zone, he's like a red zone X guy for me.
Yeah, I feel like a great spot for him would be the Bills. They need a guy that would be a nice pairing with Josh Allen, and like that can make it work. If he has an aggressive, strong arm quarterback, this will work. If he has a guy that just if it's CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, something like that, like good luck, because he's not going to win on those routes.
Right. That's the problem too. A lot of these guys are landing spot dependent, but yeah, I mean, it would be horrendous for fantasy to see him land in Buffalo for his fantasy value.
Correct. At number 7, you have Antonio Williams, a guy that I just think is just he's a pro. He's a very steady guy. I don't see a lot of upside there, but I think maybe you're referring to the floor he has. And he is a guy that can move all around the field. He's probably best in the slot. Pretty steady player, though.
Yeah, he'll be, for the most part, a slot guy. It's going to take some time for him to adjust to the NFL, although he did have a 4.41 40. Early career breakout. I really like the age-adjusted production here. Strong underlying talent. Metrics have been strong his entire career. They remain strong despite the level of competition. He's really good versus zone. He had some injury issues, right? So they kind of created some incomplete profiles. We don't have all the analytics that we would like. But if healthy profiles is a really strong separator, a really great slot guy, he's kind of I got him Khalil Shakir.
I have Jaden Reed. So pretty similar type player there. And that's a guy that's going to offer a pretty high floor. And if you need if you have a thin wider, like I feel like a good spot for him would be Miami, a guy just to eat up some targets and some routes.
A high floor PPR asset, right? Like a slot Z separator.
All right. My number 8, Elijah Surratt. You have him down at 11, which is right about at consensus. So you don't hate him. I just think this guy is similar to your Antonio Williams take. This guy is day one contributor, battle tested, played in big games, all those things, and probably the best hands, at least strongest hands in this class. And I have him comp to Jacoby Myers and Michael Wilson. Jacoby Myers was a converted quarterback, I believe, and it took a couple years to get going in the NFL. But once he got his footing, Jacoby Myers has been tried and true. And then Michael Wilson is the physical comp to this guy. Very strong player.
He's unspectacular to me. He's very good at what he does. Strong production across all 3 levels, right? St. Francis, then James Madison, then Indiana, 2 years there. But the production is less than ideal, 830 receiving yards. He did have 15 receiving touchdowns. So, I mean, they threw the ball a lot in the red zone at Indiana, but that's an impressive number. Limited explosiveness. The 2.18 yards per run is below average. It's just he profiles as like a volume-dependent possession receiver. If you take out that 1 year where Cortland Sutton had 1 million touchdowns, he profiles to me as a Cortland Sutton.
What I like about him, though, is quarterback dependent, but he could be a quarterback's best friend. If he gets the trust of a above average quarterback, let's say it's a Baker Mayfield, something like that, like he's a guy you can, the separation doesn't matter as much because he's going to catch everything thrown his way. And like that plays in the NFL. And I think that he could profile as a sneaky big slot receiver. He didn't play a lot of slot in college because of Omar Cooper, but he pretty much played outside the entire time. But this guy could move into the slot and be a fucking demon in the slot.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, he's more of a volume dependent X for me, but he's another red zone threat. Remember that year that Cortland Sutton had all those touchdowns? If he gets the the eye of some quarterback, right? Can you not have a double-digit touchdown season?
100%. The red zone stuff's for real, and that matters, especially for fantasy. But teams are going to value that. Number 9 for me. So you have Skylar Bell at 8. We both had talk about Skylar Bell. Number 9 for me is Ted Hurst. You have him at 12. We're both higher on Ted Hurst. He's about 15 consensus. So we love this kid. I'm curious to hear your comps for Ted Hurst because this is an interesting one.
Zay Flowers.
What? Zay Flowers is 5'11".
Yeah, it's not a size thing. It's you go back and look at their production profile from colleges, and it's almost identical. It's crazy, almost identical. Yards per route run, yards per reception, number of receiving yards, etc. It's absolutely crazy how close these guys are.
So mine is when he has the ball in his hands, especially in these crossing patterns, reminds me of Jamison Williams. He also has the same length, a little taller than Jamison Williams, not as fast because Jamison Williams is a fucking gazelle, but 4.42, which is really elite for a 6'4" frame. And then George Pickens in terms of the contested catch stuff. This dude, now the downside is the competition he was playing, like a lot easier to moss guys when you're facing bums. But I think he high points the ball really well. Really good at deep ball tracking, and Ted Hurst can kind of do it all. And I think that this is a guy that's going to be a surprise high pick in the NFL draft. Like I think he can go as early as the mid-second, late second. Would that surprise you?
That would surprise me. Yeah, I would be surprised if he went in the second round. He seems like a round 3 pick to me, but that's the other thing too. This is the classic production versus competition evaluation case, right? He played 2 years at Valdosta State before transferring to Georgia State, and even though Zay Flowers spent all 4 years at Boston College, both of their productions dipped versus higher level defenses. So that makes the question mark like, okay, now we're talking about the best of the best when you come to the NFL. Can you really make that leap? But strong target share, strong market share. A little weaker on the yards per route run than I would have liked, but he was dominant versus weaker competition, so you can't ask much more from that. I would like to see. I like your Jamison Williams comp. I don't know how much Jamison Williams weighs. I think he's a little lighter than Ted Hurst. Is he not?
Yeah, Jamison Williams is like 190.
Yo, that he's significantly lighter, because this guy's 206.
Right. So not quite as fast either, but like Jamison Williams' hands are bad, dude. They're really bad. Even in his good years he's dropping passes. He's turning the wrong way. He has similar problems as Xavier Worthy, but Xavier Worthy is like absolute zero when it comes to those things. And he's a bigger frame than Worthy. But dude, I just love Ted Hurst, and I feel like some teams are gonna get enamored with what we're talking about. And I think I'm calling second round. I'm calling late second round for this kid. Let's go to my number 10, and you're gonna hate this one. It's Malachi Fields.
Yeah, I do hate that one.
Do you have a comp for Malachi Fields, or he's not even on your board?
I don't. He's not even in my thought processes.
I have Kenny Galladay and Brandon Marshall. What do you think about that?
Brandon Marshall seems aggressive. Kenny Galladay, though, that one, I could see that. Although, the Kenny Galladay went to a different program type than Malachi Fields did.
Yeah, I'm just looking at body type and just watching the film, and Malachi Fields plays faster than his 40. I love his feet on comeback routes. Probably the most competitive player in terms of when the ball's in the air in this class. Even more so than Denzel Boston, if you ask me. And that's going to play. He has a specific role and a spot in the NFL. A team's going to love the physical presence he brings. Great in the run game, dude. And the NFL is going to more, they're running the ball way more than they had 5-6 years ago. So 3rd round pick, maybe early 4th round pick. There's going to be a team out there, a couple teams that don't really care about the metrics as much. And it's similar to Emmett Johnson, not the best combine and not the most production in college either. I'm just going on the mold here of Malachi Fields, the guy he's a grown man, Storey. And, if the Steelers didn't have all these giant receivers, he'd be a perfect Pittsburgh Steeler. But, the Bears might be a sneaky spot for him. They need another X receiver. And I would love that with Caleb Williams. So how far off of your 15 was he? Was he number 16? Was he number 20? Do you not go that low?
I haven't gone that low yet.
Son of a bitch.
You're comparing him to Kelly. Galladay was like hugely dominant at NIU, right? Like
at NIU though.
Yeah, true. But Malachi Fields, like he can't separate versus top corners. He doesn't have explosiveness. He for me, he looks like a wide receiver one, but he doesn't play like one. And the production certainly doesn't match that. He's the archetype of what we want to see, but he doesn't end up. He becomes more of a role player in the league. So for me, I think the market is betting on body type rather than actual measurables and production.
Exactly, and so am I. And I'm gonna go to war with that one. Number 11, Jeremy Bernard. You're number 10, so right around the consensus here. This guy's one of the safest picks in the draft, right?
Yeah, I think so. Unspectacular production last year, despite the fact that Alabama should have been throwing the ball a lot more. Combine 4.48, that's okay. Yeah, the big problem is some of the efficiency. 13.5 yards per reception, 1.70 yards per route run is just that's gross. But he was he was more of a rotational guy than I thought I think people thought he was going to be last year. He's not been able to command top target share, but he is a good route runner, smooth movement. He's a rotational Z. Like, he's very pro ready in that regard, but he's not a true separator, not a guy who's going to be your number one for your team.
Do you have a comp for him?
Jarvis Landry.
Ooh, wow. I have Romeo Doubs.
Okay.
A little better with the ball in his hand than Doubs, but similar type player there. So we are on to a guy that I don't have on my list, but you do. It's Chris Brazzell. Didn't even sniff my list, even though that's sacrilege because he's probably going to be a second-round pick in the NFL draft. But do I have a comp? Oh, my comp for Chris Brazzell is Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Are we all the way down to 13? Yeah, I guess we did cover all these other guys, right? Yeah.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Okay. 6'4", 198. What was Valdez-Scantling coming out?
6'5", maybe 6'4". He's a big boy. He's a really tall guy.
Yeah. 9 receiving touchdowns, 16.4 yards per reception. That's very good. Again, the yards per route run, it's one of the key metrics I look at, 1.86. But the 40 time, 4.37. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Some team's going to fall in love with his speed. They're going to get him on the field early.
And at 6'5", 6'4", like that speed, like he's not a super skinny guy either. He's not Bryce Lance. Like he's a bigger body dude. Did you notice some of his very questionable body language he had on the field if he wasn't targeted, inability or unwillingness to block in the run game? There's a lot of smoke around his character issues off the field. So like a lot of red flags as well as the Tennessee thing. So like all those things, he's done. He's off my board. If the Bears take him in the second round, I'm going to renounce my Bears fandom, and that's a realistic possibility story. I would hate that. I would take this kid in the fourth round just because he does have more upside than a lot of the guys I have on my list if it pans out. But these kind of players never pan out, dude.
It's a deep shot guy, right? Extreme average depth of target. Production is heavily tied to deep targets. So who's got that available to them? Like, what team can realistically use that? I think he's on my list because the efficiency does work really well, I think. And I think some team is going to I don't know where he's at being ranked right now, but
5 on Draft Buzz, 5.
Oh, well, that's way too high. And I'm not a fan of this guy. I just think there is some possibility that he can become a role player like a deep threat specialist in the NFL.
And he's going to have the draft capital. Like lowest he goes is probably mid-third, right? Just based on the size speed stuff. And that's the what could bite us in the butt, ranking him this low. But like I would bet my hard-earned money that he's a bust in the NFL because he's going to go too high. And like I said, there's so many red flags, and all you really have is, yes, the production's okay, but it was also a very, very talk about limited route trees, like versatility 0. He literally plays not only X, it's Tennessee's X, which is not a typical, not ready for the NFL. And there's nothing to his game besides being big and fast. And I guess he's decent at the deep stuff. Like he has decent adjustment on the ball. It's fine. I hate this kid. So Zachariah Branch is my 13. He made your list, Storey. You see he got arrested.
That's why he made my list. Because he stood up to some ego cop in Athens, Georgia. I'm moving this kid up 2 spots. I love the fact that he stood up for himself.
Good. Now, as you know, I had him at borderline top 10, and there's just a lot of concerns with, he's bubble boy, man. And he just runs bubble screens and love him he's a great gadget player. I think that he is capable of doing the rest. I really, truly do. It's just not going to be in his rookie year. So where's my comps here? Maybe I didn't do one. Tyreek Hill is my comp.
Xavier Worthy.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Xavier Worthy. I have comp. Mine's Rondale Moore is his low end comp, and his high end comp.
Similar body types, right? Short guy.
High end comp is Percy Harvin.
Yeah. Listen, he's on my list. I was joking about moving him up because of the arrest.
Yeah.
You don't have any concerns about the arrest, do you? It from what it
sounds like, misdemeanor.
Sounds like some cop was just like trying to whatever, and he told him to move, and he sparked. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock whatsoever. The big concern, obviously, is the yards per route run against man coverage is abysmal. 40 times great, but the usage is very untraditional or intraditional, whatever it is. Virtually nothing downfield. I worry about his projection at the next level, but I do like the manufactured touches, the special team value, the outlier profile. It could be a good thing. So he has risen up. I hated him early in the process, and I'm starting to come around on that because of his open field ability, his explosiveness, etc.
He's a tank too. This dude is built. Like, he is built. Bench press, strength. If he can unlock the other parts of his game,
for 177 pounds,
dude, he almost plays like Omar Cooper. That type of strength, and he's 25 pounds less. So the raw tools he has to work with is, it's top 5 in this class. Honestly, it's just we haven't seen it. We haven't seen any versatility, and whether that's he's incapable of doing it, and that's why the coaches didn't have him do it, or is it because the coaches are idiots? And you also saw him not use Oscar Delp in the receiving game either. So I have a lot of questions with Georgia's coaching staff, and the last couple of years have not gone well there. And there's a chance that they just whiffed on this kid, and USC misused him as well. There's a chance that happens, and he actually is the full package.
That's more a likely the competition around him than it was USC misusing him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he just wanted to get out of there. So I'm glad you had him on your list, though, because he the upside there, it's similar to Chris Brazzell. I have no issues. I know he just did get arrested. I don't have any issues. Like, he's not a lazy player. He's willing to block if asked to do that. He'll do whatever the team needs. That's why I have the Percy Harvin comp, because if a team uses him properly, it's going to be what we saw from Rondale Moore early in his career. It didn't work. Rondale Moore, though, would have had a good career. It was the injuries. The injuries derailed him, and rip Rondale Moore, who's not with us anymore.
Yeah, Rondale Moore, obviously RIP, worked really well at Purdue. He stayed incredibly healthy there. It's just one of those, like, okay, did he really belong in the NFL? I mean, yes, he belonged in the NFL. I don't want to take anything away, speak ill of the dead, but like that size, that profile, like, it's very hard to translate. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's why I kind of worry about Zachariah Branch too. Like, you're a behind the line of scrimmage guy. His average depth of target was insanely low. Like, what does that mean for the next level? It's not like NFL teams run consistent bubble screens, right?
Well, Tyreek Hill had not this much of a bubble boy, issue going on in college, but Tyreek Hill was not doing any of the things we saw in the NFL in college. He was a fucking punt returner, man. So, like, this guy does comp to that level of athleticism, right? Maybe not Tyreek Hill level, but like 90% of Tyreek Hill.
You should get the clip from Seinfeld with the bubble boy for when we talk about Zachariah Branch.
Yeah, right. Or just there's a lot of bubble boys in this, because Deion Burks is not quite the bubble boy Zachariah Branch is, but similar. And Deion Burks, I don't know, I have the numbers in front of me. Crazy bench press. Dude plays really, really strong. And I do like Deion Burks. He's more polished than Zachariah Branch. Maybe not quite the yak guy, but every bit as fast. And you don't have Deion Burks on your list, but do you see a chance he pops off and just becomes a thing? Because he is one of these super fast guys. You had Brennan Thompson on your love list.
I'm trying not to hold the production against him, because Oklahoma's defense was very good the last 2 years, but 620 yards receiving in a full season last year, that leaves a lot to be desired. 4 touchdowns. Now, John Mateer did deal with some injuries last year, so we have to take that into account. But the efficiency is very poor there, 10.9 yards per reception. I worry about him a little bit, 5'9", 188, so he's undersized. 5 years in the league or in college. I'm not sure that there is much for him.
The speed, it's the Brennan Thompson thing. Like, he's going to get drafted based on that speed. It's going to happen. It's going to get drafted, I think, in the 4th round. So this whole stretch, man, of like 6 through 15, maybe not so much on our list, but that stretch is really strong at wide receiver this year. It's similar to the running back class last year, right? Where after you got the high end guys, there were just so many guys. You had a guy like Kyle Monunga going in the 7th round, like so much depth at wide receiver this year. Let's go to your number 14, Bryce Lance, the guy you've been talking about for a while. I have a hard time evaluating what I'm seeing, and it's not even so much the college he plays at. He's so fucking raw, but he just torches dudes. So I had a question mark for my comp, and I think the lazy thing to settle on is Christian Watson because the same school. Sure. Christian Watson's a little thicker than him, but I didn't really have a comp for him. I'm not going to give one just because he's a unicorn, man, and this can go. I could see him being out of the league in 2 years, or I could see him being a literally Christian Watson level producer, which is just a big play threat and a guy that actually is pretty good red zone chops.
Yeah, actually, I went with Adonai Mitchell. Very similar play styles, very similar size. There's a lot of unknowns with this guy. The level of competition is less than ideal, although North Dakota State has pumped out a number of NFL players. The combine testing, the testing, 4.34 40, right? The 21.2 yards per reception is insane. Just an unreal 3.8 yards per route run. Like, you do not see that in today's college football. I don't know what to think of him, but I'm planting my flag. I'm planting my flag on the archetype, on the production, on the athleticism. This small school creates a wider range of outcomes for me. But I like his physicality. I like his blocking. I like his reliability. I worry about the upside. He could flame out in after his rookie contract. You're right, but he could be a really solid complementary piece going forward.
Pedigree too. I know Trey Lance was a bust in the NFL, but he was a top 2 pick, and he's got that those genes, and it shows in the field, man. Like, regardless of what school he played on. And in the testing metrics show that too. It's not just that he was burning a guy that was a gym teacher. Like, he was burning a gym teacher, but instead of burning him by 7 yards in college, he'll burn a guy by 3 yards, which is all you need in the NFL. He'll have better quarterback play as well. All right, we are down to the last guy here, Storey, and this is Lewis Bond. It's my guy. I talked him up in the Deep Gem show. We did a pretty deep dive on him there. My comps for him. Low end comp, and this is crazy to say low end comp of a guy that's going to be a 5th round pick at the earliest, is Tyler Boyd for him, a smaller Tyler Boyd. Yeah. And then, you know what? I threw in Cooper Kupp, man. I threw in Cooper Kupp for a comp because this dude just gets open. He is super tough. He is super savvy. He doesn't separate. He's almost like a poor man's Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon when I see his film. That there's not a big difference. And you know what? Boston College, as bad as they are as a program, that's where Zay Flowers went. You know what I mean? Like, they can produce some talent, and this guy just is a good football player. He's ready to play.
Well, I would have liked to see the 1,000 yards last year. I would have liked to see more production, especially in the touchdowns last year. That would have been nice, or a higher average depth of target, higher yards per route run, higher yards per reception, etc. But he's a guy that I think you can take a stab on, especially in rookie drafts, and see if he develops into something. I don't dislike him at all.
I mean, nobody knows about this kid either. So this is you can get him with their last pick,
Yeah. Yeah. He's from Chicago.
I do know that. Love this kid, man.
Yeah.
This is you're planting your flag on Bryce Lance. I'm planting on Lewis Bond, and you're throwing around the Cooper Kupp, which I think we all know Cooper Kupp wouldn't have been Cooper Kupp if it wasn't for Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. Had he gone to the Browns, like, what would have Cooper Kupp's career been? Probably nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's so situational with these guys. And, Cooper Kupp, didn't he run a 4.6 40, 4.62 or something?
It wasn't
super
fast.
Slow. Yeah. He's the definition of a white guy out there. And Lewis Bond is black. So he's got that going for him. I'm just saying, like, he's a black, I call it, okay, Lewis Bond is the black Cooper Kupp. Can we settle on that?
Well, it's okay. Or he's the shorter Tyler Boyd, because there's probably like 4 inches between those guys.
Yeah, something
I
like
don't
that.
want to go to a party with a bunch of losers from high school. But dude, this is Brittany Kaiser's house, and I really, really want to fuck her. Dr. Kaiser. Coop and Reamer. We graduated with Brittany.
You graduated?
Of course we graduated, cock beer.
Hey-oh, shout out to basketball.
These guys are
You
geniuses.
guys are geniuses. Of course we graduated, cock beer. I say that to people all the time at parties. No one gets it. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? So whenever you offer someone a beer, just call them a cock first and then just cock beer. All right, so there's the list, guys. I'm going to put up both lists here real quick. If you're just tuning in, if you want to check them out, also you can always go back and rewatch it. So here's the running back list. Not a lot of agreements, but we do both hate Jadarian Price. We both love Nicholas Singleton, and I feel like Seth McGowan's kind of our guy. We both really don't like Jonah Coleman, and other than that, we had a lot of different names on here, which I do like, and that kind of shows what this running back class is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're both higher on Mike Washington. I mean, I'm really high on Mike Washington, but I think you're pretty high on him as well.
You're pretty high on Emmett Johnson. God, Emmett Johnson and Malachi Fields are just two guys you despise that I love. And then here's the wide receiver list, and quite a bit of discrepancies. But Skylar Bell and Ted Hurst are two guys we love. I'm higher on them than you are, but you're higher on them than consensus.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing on yours is Concepcion at 2. I don't know of anybody that doesn't have the big 3 as the big 3.
Well, that's easy for me to do because I'm not a Carnell Tate guy, and
he has.
Yeah, I guess Concepcion.
He has moved up your list though.
Yeah, and that's just based on, like I said, the Devontae Adams factor. Like, I don't want to feel like a total idiot, and I should have planted my flag, but like he is a safe prospect. And if he goes to the Browns, I will most likely be correct on my ranking. But I think Concepcion has, like I said, I come from Odell Beckham. I think he has possibly the highest upside in this class, and that's including a guy I love in Jordan Tyson, who has 1. I think he's safer taking away the injuries. Concepcion is just a playmaker, man. And that plays in the NFL, a guy that can be versatile as hell. And I really want Concepcion to go to the fucking Dolphins and just get plenty of targets. If you give this kid 150 targets, like, what is he going to do with those targets? Because the guy's electric with the ball in his hand.
I think we're all going to be holding our breath on Thursday as we watch the draft unfold, and as the Jets and the Browns are on the clock, hoping that one of the guys that we have planted our flags on don't end up there.
And actually, let me clarify: the Jets and the Browns on the clock twice in the first round, so you have 4 of those picks to hold your breath on.
You got to hold your breath for
like
32 full minutes.
God damn! They moved the clock down a little bit, right? For the
they moved it from 10 minutes to 8 minutes.
Okay, but they make every team take the full allotted time, even if the pick's in.
Yeah, because the NFL has stretched it out significantly. Now it is smart for them to go from 10 to 8 because 10 minutes was just way too long.
What's the day 2, round 2 and 3? Is that like 5 minutes? Is that less?
It goes 7 minutes in round 2, and I believe 6. No, does it go down to 6? I don't know actually.
That's the best day for me is
minutes.
Day 2, Friday night's the best day because you get quicker picks, 2 rounds opposed to 1 round. Big fan of day 2. More trade. I feel like there's more trades in the second and third round as well.
Yeah, so it goes 7 for round 2. I was right about that, and then it goes down to 5 for rounds 3 through 6, and 4 for round 7.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, where are you watching the draft? You gonna watch every second of it?
I'll be plugged in. I'll have my laptop on one tray table. I'll have my iPad on another, and then I'll have the TV. And then I'm trying to talk my wife into letting me bring the second TV down, but she's like, "Then we got to drag it down and drag it back up." I'm like, whatever.
Story is tuned in and ready for this.
I love the draft. I love the draft more than I love the combine. And I love the combine, but I love seeing all these guys that, these especially rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, guys that nobody's literally ever heard of. Like I said, Lameke Brockington, when he goes in round 7, I'm gonna be like, I know that guy.
Well, guys that you know of, yeah, and it's kind of it's like worlds colliding for you because you love college and you love the NFL, and it's you play much more fantasy football, so it's more relevant then. But it's guys that you know that maybe have made money for you, and now you get to see them play on the big field, right? The big screen, the big show.
Moving on to the big. Yeah, you already said it.
I think I hit it. Now some of these guys are just gonna bust like crazy. Which is, it's coaching though, man, and also you don't know. The thing is about all these ranks we do and everything that everyone does, like we don't know what's between the ears on these kids. We don't know their work ethic. We don't know if they're just gonna be happy making $17 million. And we don't know if that, some of them are the opposite, where like they will themselves to be good players if they just get the opportunity. So they're all exceptional athletes, right? Like you're not going to even be playing Division I football if you're not a top tier athlete.
Yeah, I mean it is. I think it's a little bit of hubris to think that we can get in the heads of these potential NFL players and think that, oh, I know how this guy's going to react at the next level. But there's certain guys that I feel strongly that I can at least project some of that confidence and motivation in. Seth McGowan being one, right? Coming back from what he came through. And I'm not taking anything away from what he did, but just being able to come back into that and work his way up to an SEC program and then being eligible for the draft. I mean, how can you tell me that the guy doesn't have a work ethic?
Yeah, right. And that's, yes. And I feel like Mike Washington Jr., similar guy, didn't go to jail, but then you have guys, like I mentioned, the Chris Brazzell thing, which is a big concern. And like, I think the opposite of that kid, like he's going to get drafted high enough where he's going to have a big payday. And he's just going to be like, well, I made it to the NFL. I mean, look at Keon Coleman, dude. Look at who's the guy I loved out of Alabama, that Burton. Remember Burton?
Jermaine Burton?
Dude, Jermaine Burton, just total knucklehead, second round pick, right? And then just never to be heard of again, missing meetings. Played okay when he was on the field, but never got the opportunity. And he's out of the league, right? I mean, is he still? He's on the roster right now. He'll be cut.
I don't know. I could not tell you where he's at.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
what could DK Metcalf have been if he wasn't snarfing down Skittles on the sideline every game?
I'm changing my Chris Brazzell comp. I'm changing it
to
Jermaine Burton. Yep, that's the comp. There it is. It makes too much sense, man. That's the comp.
Fair enough.
I like that one. Sweet. All right, buddy. This is awesome, man. Great last month and a half covering the draft, and it is 3 days away, dude. So
it's
gonna be exciting.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna send you a bunch of selfies during the draft.
I look forward to it.
Hell yeah. I might have my shirt off in a couple of them. Is that okay?
I'll have my shirt off by the 3rd pick.
Really?
Wave it around my head.
I'm gonna have to see this. So actually, you're gonna have to FaceTime me.
I used to do a draft party for the draft years ago. I used to do a draft party. Had people over. We'd do food. We'd do drinks. But it got to the point where people were talking too much. And then they started talking while the pick was being read. And I'm like, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. This is
my kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's why I watch football on Sundays with my wife mostly, because she wants to learn. She wants to watch. She's also a little distracted sometimes too. So it's just mostly me. And then I can answer some questions and we can watch it and don't have an idiot being like, that referee. Like, you know what? Settle down, bro. All right.
I do yell at the players and the coaches and the referees quite a bit. So I'm right with you.
The coaches. You got the coaches.
I do hate
All right, man. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you to everyone. Love your life. Stay positive. Respect each other. We're out of here.
Just seemed like a good dude. I thought I'd see if you wanted to grab a beer. That's all. I'm glad you called. We get home safe, Pistol.
You got it, Jobin.
I'm sorry, what?
Nothing.
Oh, what'd you say?
I don't know. You nicknamed me Pistol, and I just called you Jobin. It means nothing. I'm drunk. I'm gonna call a cab.
All right, man. You have my number, yeah?
I got you stored in